So it's no secret that Democrat voters have turned violent against Elon Musk, but are they now turning violent against their own leadership? Take a look at this clip.
This happened last night at the Ivy town hall, where a constituent named John from Prince George's County, Maryland, decided to get animated and really challenge him over the idea that the Democrats were just not fighting hard enough. Take a listen.
It's not that you're in the minority. It's that you aren't even working together on a shared strategy. And that is failure. So to be clear, Congressman, the message you should clearly take to your colleagues from your constituents is this. We are not interested in hearing that you are in the minority. We know that. We want you to show some of the backbone and strategic brilliance that Mitch McConnell would have in the minority.
Right.
We want you to show fight, and you are not fighting.
Now, what I find to be interesting, while Democrats are arguing with each other and their voter base, you know what they're not doing? Offering solutions to work in a bipartisan fashion with the current administration. That's what they're not doing. That's number one. And number two, if you're trying to compare what you want your leaders to do to Mitch McConnell, you know how that worked out for Mitch. I mean, I don't think they should go down that road, especially since they spent so many years demonizing Mitch McConnell. I find that to be interesting that they think that is the shiny object or model of what they want their leaders to be.
Congressman Ivey didn't take grief just over that. He took grief, Boris, over things like the Israeli-Palestinian conflict and his support for Israel. It almost didn't matter what the subject matter was. Once these people got going, they really kind of gave it to him. And this was a friendly audience, mostly Democrats in that crowd.
Answer his question. I'm going to answer his question. I'm going to answer his question. You're not going to get me upset.
So it seems to me if Democrats don't change their leadership or their tune and back it up with action, you know what will happen next? The way they're treating Elon Musk, that's exactly what will happen to these politicians. And it's to their own doing. They're the ones that put themselves in this position by radicalizing their base. But it's not all Democrats, okay? Because you still got moderates out there who do not support what's been happening here. And I think the best way it was explained is in this next clip. Watch this.
They're not at 28, 29% because of their false notions of masculinity. It's because of what they did to the country for the last 4 years. And what they don't seem to understand is that the American people just elected Donald Trump with a swing state sweep and a popular vote mandate. They don't want the Democrats to fight him. The Harvard Caps Harris poll just came out. 7 in 10 Americans want Democrats to wait and see what Trump does before they go out and oppose him. They want to give President Trump a chance to succeed. And what are Democrats doing constantly? They're putting themselves on the wrong side of 80, 20, 70, 30 issues. They're out there standing in front of USAID, fighting for foreign aid. They're opposing DOJ and the efforts to root out waste, fraud, and abuse. They're opposed to deporting criminal aliens. They almost just shut down the government over a CR that essentially extended the last Biden budget for a few more months while we work out all this stuff. What are they doing? The Americans don't want them to fight these issues. They're on the wrong side and in the wrong position. They want them to work with Trump and find common ground and try and advance things for the American people.
Yeah, this is so simple that a child would understand exactly what we're talking about here. But the problem for that party is they're blind. Okay, they're too obsessed with Trump. Everything is about fighting against him instead of standing for something they want to fight for. We know what President Trump is fighting for. America First agenda. But Democrats, they're not fighting for anything. They're fighting against Trump. So everything they do is about him instead of it being about the voters and then working in a bipartisan fashion. And obviously it doesn't help when the queen of that party, Nancy Pelosi, continues to come out and say this.
It is about what comes next. I myself don't give away anything for nothing. And I think that's what happened the other day. We could have, in my view, perhaps gotten them to agree to a third way, which was a bipartisan CR for 4 weeks, in which we could have had bipartisan legislation to go forward. I'm an appropriator. Mr. Schiff is an appropriator, and with the Appropriations Committee. They may not have agreed to it, but at least the public would have seen they're not agreeing to it. And that then they would have been shutting government down, because we don't want government to shut down.
And so this is nothing. The fighting is going to continue to increase. The violence will increase. these politicians in the Democratic Party fighting each other will increase. And in this next clip, this is going to continue to happen as well, because now the ladies on The View are fighting each other over Democrats fighting each other. See if that kind of makes sense for you. Watch this.
Why don't the Democrats go out there and march and stop fighting with each other? I'm sick of it.
Well, I don't know, Joy, that they're fighting with each other. They're not fighting a unified fight. That is the problem.
The fact that Nancy is now out there criticizing Schumer, stop it already.
You know why she's criticizing him? Because he should have been fighting for that veteran. He should have been fighting for the people of America that are feeling the way that they are feeling.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Go out and fight for them.
But it's not about, well, he had the opportunity to fight for them. Chuck Schumer caved to the GOP and got nothing.
Yeah, so the real question here is, why was Chuck Schumer and Democrats not prepared for this funding bill? Because clearly they were caught flat-footed. And it really comes down to what I've been screaming, I really since the beginning here, is that Democrats are trying to fight President Trump on every single issue because they don't know what they stand for. They don't know what they're fighting for. They have no identity. And so every day they wake up, they're just in reaction mode. And as a result, they had no thinking, no strategy, and no energy for what happened over the past 2 weeks. Now, NBC News just came out with a poll, and I think it explains one of the key issues with the Democratic Party. Why are they so radical? Take a look at this.
White women with at least a college degree, the only group of white voters that really kind of is on the left politically, aligned with progressive causes, democratic politics. Give you an example here. It's that DEI question, right here, that we asked about in our poll. We had 2 big statements we read to voters. Basically, do you want to continue DEI programs, or do you think they should be ended? And again, look at this divide here. White men, no degree, end it. White men with a degree, end it, they say. White women, no degree, end it, they say, by double digits. And then white women with a college degree, completely different by a nearly 40-point margin, they say, to continue DEI. So this is one of, it's not the only, but this is one of the areas here, sort of a cultural hot button where you can see it's that group of white voters in particular who are aligned on the progressive side, who are aligned politically, we see, with the Democrats, and who are important in pushing the Democratic Party. We've seen the Democratic Party move left on cultural issues. This is a big reason why right here, just as we've seen the Republican Party go more blue collar in its messaging, this is a big reason why.
Now, to me, those numbers scream radical feminism. I mean, am I lying at this point? That's exactly what that shows. And it's just unfortunate. Now, I know that's a little torture, but it really proves the point here. They're over here fighting on the show. The politicians are fighting amongst each other. Nancy Pelosi continues to throw Chuck Schumer under the bus. The voter base is turning violent against Elon Musk. Now they're showing up at these town hall meetings, screaming at their leaders. I mean, what's next? You know, someone's going to get hurt sooner or later. Now, here's what Bernie Sanders had to say about these voters screaming and getting upset at their elected officials.
It's not, I know, everyone's beating up on Chuck, and I strongly disagree with him. Strongly. No one is in the caucus more critical of Schumer than I am. But it's not Schumer. It's the caucus. It's not the caucus. It's the Democratic Party. You got to take a deep breath and understand that you have a Democratic Party. You know, you got a Republican Party, which is owned by Musk. Any Republican who defies Donald Trump will be primaried by Musk, unlimited amounts of money. In the Democratic Party, you got a party that is heavily dominated by the billionaire class, run by consultants who are way out of touch with reality. The Democratic Party has virtually no grassroots support. So what we are trying to do is, in one way or another, maybe create a party within the party of bringing millions of young people, working class people, people of color, to demand that the Democratic Party start standing with the working class of this country and take on the very powerful corporate interests that have never had it so good.
Now, 80% of what he said is true. I agree with it. But the other 20% is just false. Let me explain why. The corporate interests, they got rich under Joe Biden. They've never been rich until Joe Biden became president. I mean, think about the profits that took place under COVID. Didn't happen under Trump. That happened under Biden. It's Wall Street that benefited from the policies of Joe Biden, not Main Street. Of course, I don't believe he's going to say that.
You've been out on the road hearing that from voters with Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, as you mentioned. People are saying she should primary Schumer. Do you think she'd be a formidable opponent if she did?
I don't want to get. Look, the issue right now is not worrying about a primary 3 years ago, 3 years from now, whenever it's going to be. That's media stuff, Caitlin. That's not what people are worried about.
It's Democratic voter stuff, too, though.
What we have got to do now is wake up the American people. The vast majority of the American people do not believe that we should give tax breaks to billionaires and cut Medicaid, cut Social Security, cut veterans programs and nutrition. And our job is to rally the people at the grassroots level, have them run for school board or Congress or the Senate on an agenda that says that we're going to stand up for working class people, not the rich. That's what we've got to do in this moment.
Well, unfortunately, it seems that he's out of touch as well, because the majority of Americans, even Democrats, don't even buy that messaging. I'm talking about moderates, not radical, progressive, leftist lunatics, okay? People who have a brain and can think for themselves. They're not buying the message that Republicans are trying to gut benefits to give tax cuts to billionaires. It just isn't going to add up there, okay? There's no receipts to show that. There's no piece of legislation to support it. There's no executive order that Trump has issued to, again, support that claim. So, to each its own. If that's what he's going to run with, I don't believe it's going to work for him. Now, here's a clip from a GOP strategist, Malik, who is continuing to do what Republicans have been great at doing since the election, which is describe the problems of the Democratic Party better than Democrats can describe it themselves. Take a look.
I think it's a difficult thing because there is a push and pull within the party, as there is, really on the Republican side as well. Yeah. But until Democrats do an actual autopsy to figure out why they're losing, they have, you can pushing back. It's easy. It's not that hard. Screaming outside of federal agencies, that's not hard at all, but actually finding out. And I think that Democrats since 2016 have failed to do an autopsy as to why people would be attracted to Donald Trump. And until they do that, going back to 2016, we're not talking about just the podcast world. They have to do a serious autopsy. And I just don't think that they're ready to do that.
Number one, he's absolutely correct with everything he said. And number two, I don't believe they're ready. Because as long as the House Minority Leader continues to go on to MSDNC and repeat these words, they're nowhere close to being where they need to be to actually create transformation within their own party. Take a look.
We have the Republicans on the run on three different issues. We have them on the run with respect to the economy. Donald Trump and House Republicans promised that they were going to lower the high cost of living. But instead, costs haven't gone down. They've gone up. Inflation is going up. Why? Because Donald Trump and Republicans haven't been focused on doing anything to lower the high cost of living. Not a single bill, not a single executive action, not a single administrative order. We, as House Democrats, have to make sure we forcefully make the case to everyday Americans that we are trying to build an affordable economy. We know that costs are too high, and we know that people are struggling to live paycheck to paycheck. And that should never happen in the wealthiest country in the history of the world. We got to hold the line as it relates to the economic narrative. And we see that Trump's poll numbers are collapsing in that regard. The American people are with us. We got to hold the line as it relates to the effort to save Medicaid and prevent the type of devastation that Republicans are trying to bring to hurt children, hurt families, hurt pregnant women, hurt seniors, hurt Americans with disabilities who rely upon Medicaid to go see a doctor and to live the best possible life.
So me and you both know inflation has actually gone down, okay, not up. Now, the cost of things have not gone down, except if you're thinking about eggs, gas prices in some areas, mortgage rates, and a little bit of electricity. Those things have decreased. But look, this is to be expected. They have no actual message that is based on substance and actual policy positions with plans and frameworks and step-by-step processes that they want to put in place to actually pass through Congress and help their constituents. That doesn't exist. The only thing they're great at this point in time is creating a message that is against President Trump. And that's the big problem for them, because over the past decade, they've been using that playbook and people are tired of it and they see right through it. So it brings me to the question of this video. Do you believe that the radical lunatics from the progressive left of that party will turn violent against their own? Do you think they will start hosting violent protests against elected officials that are Democrats? Let me know what you think about all that in the comment section below. Now, speaking of radical and being a lunatic, The federal judge that blocked President Trump from deporting TDA gang members just got a rude awakening because a Republican congressman from Texas just filed articles of impeachment. If you missed out on that story and more from earlier today, all you have to do is click on that video because it's coming up right now.